It's time for a Titan video review. It's time for a Titan video review.
Hey, tian-ed here. Back to do another video review. Sorry, I've been a very, lazy. Lazy's the word. Yeah, I've been just pretty much lazy. I'm sorry, guys. Between recently picking up a Nintendo Switch and, well, really just a lack of uninspired figures from Titan's Return, in my opinion. Well, not completely uninspired, but just not figures I really want to do a video review for. And the fact I have yet to find any Power of the Prime stuff here in Kentucky, well, has left me with a bit of a reviewer's drought for me. I'm sorry. With that said, I do have at least 2 new figures to review, and another video I have been eagerly anticipating to do for quite some time. But before we do that, I have to do this review. A review of DX9's Sonic Wizard, aka Legends Not Soundwave. And man, I've got problems with this figure. Not least of which will be the price point, but I may get into that into the other video I alluded to. Now, some more eagle-eyed viewers may be wondering where, though who may have already either has the figure or have seen it online, where's Ratbat? Well, when I popped the box open today to eagerly get the figure out of its box and take a look at it, I come to find out I have no Ratbat. I instead have a second Laserbeak. Now, I have attempted to contact DX9. I have yet to receive a reply from them about this, whether or not I need to go back through BigBadToyStore.com in order to get a new figure that just so I can get the Ratbat, or if they'll just outright send me a Ratbat in the mail. Given that it's just a Laserbeak with a repurposed head and new paint job, I can't imagine it would be that hard for them to mail it to me in a very small envelope of some kind. But, yeah, that was, well, a little disheartening, opening it up and finding out you have 2 Laserbeaks and not the Ratbat they promised. Making that price all the more annoying. But putting the cassettes off to the side, we'll talk about them in a minute. We have their Sonic Wizard, Soundwave. And this figure for me is a bit of a letdown. Now, I make no bones about it. I am a Mech Planet fanboy. I like their products a lot. I absolutely think the best figure they've still put out to this date so far is their version of Soundwave. I'm not saying that Sonic Wizard is bad, but in comparison to it, it is night and day, at least in my opinion. Now, this cassette form is tiny, and I mean small. There's Combiner Wars Bomb Shock. Actually, not including the horn, is almost the same sized compressed down. That's dang. Just dang. Oh, and if you're wondering what that little piece in the background is, that's actually the tip of Soundwave's gun. There's not a real place to store it other than keeping it in the gun and pretending it's a antenna of some kind, or sticking it to the peg holes on the side, which will become his feet. Okay. Weird. So yeah, that's another thing that kind of bugs me. Again, something that I think Mech Planet has done infinitely better, but I will talk about that in a comparison video in a separate video. If my only complaint about this cassette form is that the door doesn't open up wide enough, in my opinion, and is once again got the hinge is made of clear translucent plastic, so that fragility that's just gonna break, particularly in just how hard it is to open the door. Although not the worst thing in the world to glue that in place, since it is very hard to get those cassettes to sit in there. So I guess it's not really a plus, but it's not really a negative in my opinion. I guess it's an even split. Who knows? But yes, that's pretty much it. You can guess how he's going to transform. And yeah. So let's get on with the robot mode, and I'll be right back in just a second. And we're in robot mode. And a lot of my complaints about this figure are really in robot mode. Now, my biggest complaint is actually a complaint for all DX9 War and Pocket figures. They all use 1mm sized porthole, or 1mm sized peg and holes for their guns. I find this to be obscene. Now, I can understand not being able to fit a 5mm port on a figure this size without the hands just looking ridiculous. But 1mm? I'm terrified that these guns are going to one day snap off in the hand, and I'm going to be left without a weapon for him. This is ridiculous. I can understand a 3mm port. It used to be the standard for Hasbro for a few years. But this at 1mm is just ridiculous. Now, what I will say about the good thing about this figure is the posability. It is very posable. A lot of ball joints and a lot of hinges. You can get this guy into some pretty good poses. And included in this figure is the one thing that I would say held back the Mech Planets offering was a waist joint. That looks nice. I'm not gonna lie. That looks good. Now, there is one problem that truly makes me question why I purchased this figure. And that is his size. He's only a hair taller than a Legends class Bomb Shock. This Soundwave is just a little too small in my opinion. I'm sorry. I know he shouldn't be towering over Bomb Shock like, say, Omega Supreme or some other larger Transformer, but Soundwave should be more than a head taller than him. Dang. Now, if my 720 video is working with some kind of clarity and my lighting is doing good work, you'll notice that Ravage, besides having painted thrusters on his hips, has that little red dot which signifies his eye. Laserbeak, well, he has a painted beak. That was the other thing I had a problem with Mech Planet's cassettes, is that they didn't really paint them all that well. They did big splotches, but they didn't try to go for detail. The only problem with, once again, my copy, now this is a little less vexing compared to not having the actual Ratbat figure. They only managed to get, with the factory, he only managed to get one eye. Yes, effectively my Ravage is missing an eye somehow. I'm sure I can fix that with a really thin Gundam marker in red, but that's just annoying. Now, the other problem that I have with this figure is that I don't know about anyone else's copy, but my copy's ball joints are very tight. And I mean very tight. Worryingly tight. Later tonight, I may try the dish soap technique with a toothpick and see if I can't loosen up the wrist hand bits and his head. His head is scary tight to a point where I'm feeling I'm going to break the ball joint tight. Luckily, I haven't had the problem that I think P.L. had, is that his feet have never popped out on me once. So, that's a good thing. Now, here's one other issue that I want to bring up, that this is just a quality control issue. Now, as you can plainly see, through that yellow, Laserbeak has a giant hole in him, kind of a la like the Titanium's Laserbeak. Now, when you transform this guy, you pull the wings back onto hinges. The problem is, the way he transforms, you see that giant gap where his head rests. The entirety of the structural integrity of Laserbeak is literally relying on the plastic that makes up his little booster pack. Because the neck joint's pinned in. I noticed just before filming, when transforming this guy, if you pull too hard, you actually stress the plastic. Now, I haven't found stress marks, but I could visibly notice that the plastic was being pulled apart at the pin joints. The plastic was separating from the neck piece from the pin joints between Laserbeak's head and his body. That's scary. One thing I will definitely give Mech Planet. They constructed their Laserbeak a lot better. He doesn't feel like he's going to break anytime soon. I am terrified this figure is going to fall apart if I pull on it too hard one day. So, I'm trading great paint job for poor plastic quality. Not the best move. Now, his posability is great, I'm not going to lie. And while I've been told it can hold 2 regular cassettes, and it can hold Ravage, who essentially is a double cassette, that's how they managed to pull him off. The internal cassette holder, the space is so tight in there, you actually have to physically open up Soundwave from the back and push the cassettes through using the gun. That's poor design in my opinion. I'm sorry. If you have to use a system similar to the Fall of Cybertron Voyager Soundwave in order to get the cassettes to come out, that's poor design. I'm sorry. Between his $35 price point and DX9's stupid decision to constantly use 1mm sized pagan holes for the robot, for the toys they make, and the fact that I'm missing a rat bat, apparently that's a thing that can happen. Let me know in the comments below if anybody else who's got this figure didn't get one of their cassette transformer in this box. I'd like to know if this is a big issue or just isolated to myself. I can't recommend this figure. Even as a Soundwave fanboy, I can only recommend this to someone who has limited shelf space or limited desk space who needs a smaller Soundwave. Honestly, it really kind of hurts. Because I do like the figure as a toy. If Hasbro released this at the Legend Scale $10 price point, I'd call it a magna opus for Hasbro. If this was upscaled into a deluxe or Voyager range, I'd still call it a great figure. But at Legend size, $35, and the potential to break certain pieces on the guns, the ball joints being overly tight, and the cassette storage space being almost feeling too tight for the cassettes to actually sit in there comfortably, I cannot honestly recommend this to anyone other than literally the most, and I mean the most die-hard Soundwave fanboys. I'm sorry, it's a great effort in my opinion, and if it was $10 cheaper, I'd absolutely recommend it then. But I'm sorry, at the price point they offer, $35 can either snag you 2 versions of Soundwave, a Soundwave and a Sound Blaster from Mech Planet, or in its current offering, they're not Ironhide, not Ratchet, or not Bumblebee that they're producing now. I cannot recommend this figure at its current price point. If you could snag it for under $20, go for it. Anything more I think you're just getting ripped off. Well, until next time, this is tian-ed saying I'll see ya when I see ya.